these tracks are supposed to be adjusted at the bottom with the gap of between 10 and 15 millimeters. A half-inch drive tool is 12.5 millimeters. So the way they're adjusted is that underneath this cover, which is proving quite reluctant to undo easily, there's a grease nipple, and that grease nipple feeds the grease into a cylinder with a piston, and the piston pushes on the main idler wheel at the front end of the track. The spider's been living in there. I wouldn't have thought there was much for a spider to do in somewhere like that. I expect the spider knows though. So there's the grease nipple. So we put our trusty grease gun on, and as I pump it in, you'll see the track rises up a bit as the tension on it increases, and reduces the gap between the bottom idler wheel. I don't know what their official names are, but you can see what it is. It's the bit that takes the weight of the digger and transfers it onto the metal part of the rubber track. Just a little bit more, I think. There. Doesn't look too bad, but we'll see. I probably should check these periodically, because the tracks aren't completely even when they go round and round. Bit of grease added to that screw hole. Perhaps this will be easier to get off next time. I mean, it's so rusted on, makes me wonder whether this was maintained properly before I had it. Checking it again. I don't know why. Seems a bit slacker now. I don't see why it should be slacker. It's very close to what I intended though, so that's okay. So it felt a bit tighter with the foot as well. If you notice, when the track rotates, you can see that it does go up and down a little bit at the bottom. So it sort of goes a little bit tight and a little bit slack as it goes around. I probably should have adjusted it at the tightest part and adjusted it to 10 millimeters, and then checked that the loosest part wasn't more than 15. Seems quite a fine tolerance, 10 to 15, for something that seems to have a natural variation. So that's the right hand side track. We just turn around and do the other one. The tipping point. On sloping ground, if you go over that tipping point when you've lifted the front up high, you can come down with quite an uncomfortable thump. That's best avoided, but you can see you can just balance on it if you want. Anyway, that's nothing to do with adjusting the tracks. That's me getting distracted. That was a bit more of a bump when it went over, but on flat ground it's okay if you're not too high. I'm just literally trying to get the digger into a good position for the camera. I suppose I could have moved the camera, might have been easier. But why move the camera when you can drive up and down in your digger? I should say that I appreciate that if you're working in anywhere that the hydraulics failing could hurt you, you should chock a machine into this position. So the way I was working was I was being very careful to be aware of where the boom was and the other parts, so that if it did suddenly come down unexpectedly, I wasn't going to lose any fingers. I'm never putting my finger under there. I'm never putting my feet under the track. And I'm not walking underneath the boom in such a way that if it suddenly came down, it'd hit my head. Now this one's a good bit slacker this side. Whether that's just that the track is rotated round to a position that's slacker, or whether it is literally slacker, I don't know. I think the reason they go slack is that the metal parts of the track wear. So I don't see why one would have worn more than the other, but I have read that sometimes the cylinder that holds the adjustment can leak a bit. So maybe that's happened. Perhaps they're not as stable. No spider's web in this side. So it's this middle one that we generally want to test against. I don't think you can see it, but the roller at the front of the track, just behind the grease gun, will move forward when I pump grease in here, because a little piston pumps it forward, but it's only going to be moving forward like a few millimeters, to be fair, to bring the track up like this. So I don't think we're expecting to see that part moving forward. We're just seeing the track getting tighter. My grease gun doesn't come off very easily. Greasing the bolt. Tighten it up. So how much does this go up and down now it's tighter? It's difficult to tell, to be honest, from the video. That's job done, really. If you've got somewhere to go, places to be, that's the end of the video. Apart from just running this track round and round and wondering how even or uneven a track is. The book says there's a join in these tracks, and that should be positioned at the top, presumably for this sort of reason, but I could never see a join. And off I go. I forgot the camera's on at this point. In fact, it ran for ages, but I won't subject you to that. That bit sticks out a bit. Bend it flat.